Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with luxury group CEO Kyverse Tyler, discussing his artist career early on, how he's worked in the gaming industry licensing for 2K, and how he's leveraged his personal network and business relationships. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and I'm sitting down with music manager, music executive, Kyverse Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How about yourself?
Great. You did come in here with great energy.
Yeah.
Came in here on time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you know, say early is on time and on time is late.
That's Curtis's motto for sure.
Yeah, no question.
No, I appreciate you. And thank you for coming, sitting down with me. I hear that a lot of great things about your journey, so I'm excited to talk to you about it.
No doubt. I'm open book. It's transparent. We can get to it.
Let's talk about it. So, I mean, originally from Newark, New Jersey?
No doubt. Jersey, grew up outside of Newark, South Orange, Maplewood area, but from the Brick City originally.
Nice.
Doubt.
A lot of greats came out of Jersey.
No doubt. Went to high school with a couple of them.
I know. We're going to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about how you actually started in music. You started as an artist. A lot of people kind of gravitate towards the artist side first.
Sure.
But I'm amazed at how you kind of pivoted in your career early on. So let's talk about, just the discovery of your love and your passion for music.
Well, I think it all started like, we'll just take it back to, moms listening to old school tunes in the crib, Delphonics, Temptations, Lisa, Colt Jam, and the like, right? So, coming up, I had a affliction for mixing music. I had an affliction for playing music. So when we was coming up, me and my dudes, we was in the 8th grade and we was DJing. We had the belt drives, first Geminis, then we went to the Technique 1200s, and I was kind of not even experimenting. We actually got into it. So me and one of my partners, this is 25 years ago, my good partner, Naeem, he's a DJ with Funk Flex up top, but we all started together. And
Nice.
I started off as a DJ because I wanted to freestyle, I wanted to rap.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from originally. And that's
Nice.
what started me off as the artist.
And were your parents or your mom very supportive of that dream, that aspiration early on, being in middle school?
Yeah.
Buying the equipment, how did you get the equipment?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it was crazy because I got a family member of mine, and it's crazy because when I was young, I might have been 10, 11, 12 years old, and my mom's like, yeah, Misa have, she's with this guy named Puffy Daddy, and nobody knew, back then, even in Jersey, we right across the water, we didn't know this was the guy that came with Joe to see Heavy D, all of that.
Right.
So when I was coming up, it was like, this was my affliction, going over to the house and actually seeing all the plaques on the wall, and I didn't know any better.
Right.
So aside, and my godmother, my mom's and dad wasn't musically inclined, but like my godmother, Sakina, she ended up marrying Cool from Kool and the Gang. So I had like kind of both sides of the world, and I'm seeing plaques over here. I mean, both sides of the game, and I'm seeing plaques over here. I'm hearing music over here. So it kind of really tuned me up even more. So mom's definitely supported the dream. You know what I mean? Banging all late night in the attic or the basement, wherever I had the speakers set up. So
That's what's up. I mean, I always ask, just like the parents' position in this, especially if they're not necessarily in the music business.
Sure.
It's a little difficult to understand sometimes. But mothers usually always.
Your mom's gonna get it because I'm an only child, so my mama's boy. So in that space, you know what I mean. So the mom's totally supported that.
For sure.
All the way up until when I went to Cornell, mom's like, I want to leave. I want to go to Five Town. She's like, what? I'm like, Mom, listen, that's where it's happening now. I'm stuck all even in Ithaca. I can't even go back and forth to the city, and so she supported that in my change over. The average parent would have been like, boy, you crazy. You paying all that money over there. You ain't got no scholarship. Stay your ass in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. So definitely supportive.
Absolutely. Now, you actually inked a deal at the age of 15.
Yes.
A record
with
deal.
Sony. Yeah, it was funny because, like I say, my connections that come from, I had a group member, my man Justin Smith. He's still an artist now, but he's kind of on another genre. Anyway, he was a DJ. And, of course, I was rapping and he was rapping, too. So, Cool was Cool from Kool and the Gang. Then you had Clayton Smith, which was his father, and he was the head drummer. So, of course, my man was DJing. He got 10 studios in the house, what have you. Muhammad Bell, shout outs to Muhammad Bell, Hakeem Bell. Muhammad Bell actually, had brought ROC to Atlanta and gave him the JD. That's when he was doing all the writing for the Brad and all of that. I mean, for Bow Wow and et cetera. Anyway, long story short, 95, he got us a deal with Sony. But him and I, we couldn't get along as group conflicts and music, and, it started getting physical and all that. So it was like two different, scenarios. So we kind of chopped that down. But that was my first entry into actually getting signed and, being in that space at a major label.
Now, can you talk about, I mean, we don't have to go into detail about the internal conflict necessarily, but I just want to know, why was it difficult at the time? I mean, you were young, you were 15, but why was it difficult for you to work in a group setting, working with someone else and kind of at collaborating in a sense. You know, I mean, music is is huge collaboration, but like when you're working directly with someone and trying to like share a vision,
Sure.
I can imagine.
Well, the thing was, I think that you know, he had come from a DJ background, and I had come from a DJ background too. When I say background, even though we 15, you know, and he's 17 at the time, he had me by 2 years. It was a space where I was more of a rapper. And I had, you know, a different appreciation for the bars, a different appreciation for the cadence, you know, things of that nature. So I don't think his was there. He wanted to do what he wanted to do.
Right.
And I felt like, you know, if we couldn't level out, then we were always going to get in conflicts. We would always have a problem. And I think it really came from, because internal conflict with groups, and, you know, not for nothing, it happened with a lot of major groups that we've seen, you know, it always becomes either an egotistical play and you operate over emotion instead of the strategy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where kind of how that played out.
Facts. Okay. I know that you said, you know, within your family or like just people around you, you were able to have like significant music relationships or relationships in the business.
Sure.
But were there any like mentors that you were able to connect with, or any relationships that you were able to connect with early on that kind of even helped you pivot or transition into more like, when did you decide like artistry wasn't it for you?
Well, it was, all right, so I'll tell you this, like, okay, so 14, 15, 16, 94, 95, 96, I'm coming up, I'm around Bad Boy, I'm there with Black Rob, get signed, I'm hanging out with Biggie, I'm doing all of that. Wow. But of course, I got a demo tape I made in the attic, and you know, Misa going with Puffy. So, you know, I'm like handing my demo, but it's like kind of corny to me because I'm a Jersey boy, so I still had this pride and this ego about myself. So it was like a different feel, right? So I didn't really look to Diddy for mentorship because there was a lot going on back then. It was really good, though, because I would spend summers at the office and things of that nature. But it became more intimate. I had a friend of mine named Shareem. Reamworks, he's a producer, you know, up from New York, and he ended up introducing me to 45 King. You know, of course, he made the Stand record and a ton of other legendary classic hip-hop records, but he introduced me also to Diamond D. Diamond D was very, very, very inspirational and very guiding to me when it came down even to the bars. He had me on the Sound Bombing soundtrack and, you know, working with Quality and Common. So that was, you know, a really, really big space in itself, that's right? Amazing. So it didn't make me go, hey, let me get into the executive. That made me rhyme more. Because mind you, I was 19, 20 years old. We working on Training Day soundtrack. We got the Grown Man mixtape out. I'm on Diamond Projects. Now I'm excited. Right. Because now I'm actually getting tutelage. I'm saying he stayed down maybe, well, because everybody stayed in Jersey, right? So we lived in South Orange. Lauryn Hill lived in South Orange. Diamond D lived in South Orange. Chris Lighty, you know, God rest his day, he lived in South Orange. Fat Joe, Prize, everybody lived up there. So Diamond D was in the neighborhood. He got that Fuji's money. They sold $10 million, and he got the mansion up in Jersey. And, you know, I spent nights at his house in the basement. He had a basement that was done up like, you know, we had Trinity Avenue, we had Forest Hill Projects from the Bronx, and the whole mural down there, and it was done by the Tats crew. Wow. So I mean, he probably had maybe about 200 crates of records down there because he was still digging in the crates, sampling. That was his thing, digging break beats out. Anyway, he was very inspirational into that, counting bars, you know, song structure, and he actually really taught me how to create a song and create a record. You know what I mean?
We connect a lot of stories on this podcast. Diamond D sat down with me before, so
yeah. Diamond D is like one of my closest friends still to this day.
That's what's up.
So you know, we've been rocking and rolling 20 years. So
that's amazing.
You know, I'm on this new project too. Like, I mean, the intro as far as the voice is concerned, and it resonates with the culture. Yeah. Because even though he said, "Hey man, Verse, you're doing your executive thing," but you got this quote on Instagram I really want to take that you one of your captions, and I really like you to do it on my new album.
That's what's up.
So you know,
yeah, you do have a very like prominent like a
distinctive
voice, distinctive voice for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, you mentioned Cornell, which I thought was interesting. But before we even get to Cornell, you went to high school, and we didn't specify, but like, what was the importance, or like, I think a lot of times when you think of hip hop, you think of New York, you think specifically, but like a lot of music and a lot of great people came out of Jersey specifically. And then a lot of those artists moved to Jersey, right?
That's right, no doubt.
So what was the importance of like your school? I'm not very familiar with your high school, but
Well, me coming from Jersey, Columbia High School was a really, really, really important and really popular high school. When I say that, I'm just saying for the talent that has come out of there. Right. You know, I mean, we wasn't in the hood. We was in the suburbs. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I went to school with, you know, Jamie Sher. You know, her mama was the program director for MTV. This is back then in the 90s. Yeah. You know, Proswell, Lauryn Hill, you know. These are people coming out of the high school. Andrew and Melissa Shue, you know, Adventures in Babysitting, Melrose Place. Like, these are the characters that actually come out of Columbia. So we didn't have like a big music program. We had a band program, but most of the people that were around, we were all creative. We all had, a couple of extra dollars, and the parents were supporting our hustle. So we had DJ equipment, and we were all trading vibes, back then. So that's kind of where it comes from, like, and being there, beating on the table, making beats in the lunchroom, we freestyling on the corner lunchtime. Like, that's the era I come from.
Yeah.
So I always had a different appreciation for the craft than the guys that came after me. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so then you actually decided to go to Cornell. Why did you decide? Well, you went for a semester.
Sure. Yeah, well, you got to count that though. Black man, Cornell, Ivy League, you did a semester. That's like doing 10 years, Howard or something. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
So you went to Cornell. What was the decision to go? And then why did you decide after a semester that just wasn't for you? You touched on it briefly, but we got to get into it.
Well, let me tap here. Like, all right, so my mother, okay, before I get there, when I graduated high school, when I was graduating high school, it was like a thing, like we had a board, right? And everybody had a star up there, all the seniors, where they was going to school at. Some people were going to Brown, some people were going to Seton Hall, some people were going to Morgan, Howard, etc. Now, mind you, my high school probably had a 41% or 31% African American population. The rest were Asian, white, whatever the case may be. Not too many Spanish, whatever, but it was kind of really eclectic, right? Shout out my boy Adam Zia too. He's a really popular attorney in New York. He's French Montana's lawyer and all of that, whatever. But we grew up together. We went to high school together.
Wow.
And he's Asian, white, mixed or whatever, So, just trying to give you that, right?
Yeah.
And being in that space, I think that it came from when me graduating. I had a 3.7 GPA. I got like 1,100 on SATs, right? And I could have got higher, right? But I'm going to share, I was high when I took my SATs. No bullshit. The first time I took it, I got like a 960. It was fucked up. I wasn't high. You know what I mean? I was just, and I don't mean it like, it was just because I'm very smart.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I just think that, a lot of the tests there are culturally biased and stuff. You know how it goes. So anyway, long story short, my mom, she actually went to school years ago, which was current with the director of admissions. So it wasn't a favoritism thing. It was like, hey, let me put my application up here so I can see if my son can actually get in.
Right.
I didn't qualify for a scholarship, but we had to pay out of pocket, and I kind of was all big on the Ivy League thing. Like, let me do this because I really want to show that the experience can come from all sides.
Exactly.
So when I went there, it was cold as hell in Ithaca. It was like taking 100 AP classes. The advanced placement classes in high school was like taking 100 of those in one. Right. It was really boring. You know what I mean? When I say that the campus was boring, the people were intellectual, brain-wise, very exciting, very stimulating. But if you're not going to sit up there and have one-on-one brain conversations all day outside of being in the book, it's not going to excite you. You know what I mean? If it doesn't turn you. So at the time, I had a friend of mine going to Five Towns College in Long Island. And I was like, that's a school for music. And my buddy was going there. He's like, yo, bro, everybody here, like, so many different people. Allison Carey's here. The chick that used to be one of the fly girls for Living Colors here. My man was excited. So I went to visit the campus. And I mean, it was a life changer because I had like 12 different classrooms, big studios. I had an audio theory class, business administration class. And these people were teaching music business back in 90s, 97, 98, 99, before your Full Sails, before your art institutes. So we were all there. So when I actually ended up leaving, I had the support of my mom. First and foremost, like what we doing? Like, and this is my path and my mission and what I wanted to follow.
Right.
So when I ended up attending there, it was cool because I met, we now know her as Chrisette Michelle, but back then, her and I were in class together.
Wow.
Allison Carey, Mariah Carey's sister, just saying these different people because I didn't plan on meeting any of these people going into that,
Right.
But that was the transition this semester. I felt like, listen, I'm going to stay here, end up with a job in the financial market, be in somebody's cubicle, hopefully get an office, hopefully make $500,000 a year, maybe move to Connecticut and have a picket fence. That's not what I wanted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted something different where I wanted something that the passion would pay me,
Right.
And what I really love to do.
Yeah, I think that's important, just considering the reasons we go to school, the reasons we go to go pursue our undergraduate degree in the first place is usually like parents or, but I talk to a lot of, younger kids who it's like, go for what you want to do. You're paying for it, or somebody's paying for it. Yeah.
And then when you start talking about like, my boy Royce the 5'9", really good buddy of mine. He has a line, his new album, the Algorithm. So, like, he has a line in there where he says, "Martin and Malcolm died for your blackness. Pursue your masters." You know what I mean? And it make you think like, damn, it make you want to go back to school. Like, you know what I mean? I saw you start thinking about it, the revolution, and being like, okay, you're correct.
Right.
You know,
That's
so,
true.
you know, and just like sidebar there, but,
No,
you know,
just
very
educating yourself
yeah,
for
very
sure.
much so.
So, I mean, after college for you, what was next? Were you interning at the time?
Yeah.
Where were some places what
Yeah.
was the importance or significance of those internships?
The significance was really, really, really important. When I say the significance is important in the internships, because of course I went to go work with Bad Boy on summer runs, and you know, of course, you know, me having like, you know, I was working with my man Jay Black and Tinker from Bad Boy. We were doing a lot of press runs, a lot of putting up posters in the city, you know, just intern work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of I just really wanted to be at the label to just kind of soak up the information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because, you know, Bernard Alexander, you know, like I say, he just so we know kind of who he is, you know. In a space like he's a founder of 50 Cent, you know, Eric Sermon's main manager, you know what I mean, whatever, Fuji's, you know, everything. So he's been in, like, he got me at David Sonnenberg crib. He had me at Jimmy Iovine house. Like, these are the relationships, once again, you know, and those internships are really relationships.
Right.
They're just relationship builders. You know, I went to go work at Motown for a stint. And, you know, at the time, you know, AZ and Cap One was signed over there. And it was just kind of me getting the lay of the land and how features work and how other artists collab with each other instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to pull up at the house. And I didn't know, you know, this is like me learning, you know, because Puff had a studio in his house, Heavy D had a studio in his house, Pete Rock and them had a studio in their crib. So I'm thinking like they just create on the go.
Yeah.
But just me learning, you know, from the inside out, it was really important.
So like this is like mid 90s, late 90s.
Yeah,
You're
it's
working
like
with
90s.
like Bad Boy
Sure.
and I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't have like a particular story in
Sure.
mind, but I know there's a story.
All right.
You're
all
young.
right. So check this out. So probably by maybe 90, 93, 94, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a Bad Boy at Puff office. It was crazy because, you know, this particular night was just like a Saturday. I'm sorry, it was a Friday. And I say that because we were going to get haircuts. I remember this like vividly. I'm a kid. You know, I'm in Bad Boy office. Total Can't You See is up there. Biggie got the all white on. It's, you know, 10, 20 TVs when you walking through the office in the 90s. Puff had the office laid out.
Yeah.
You know, and it looked like the way the design was is like the whole building was like the office structure was broken up. Like the walls were earthquake. Like, and it had footprints on the wall, like Bad Boy footprints on the wall.
Sorry.
Like that's the kids' Timberlands walking on the wall, like, you know. And Puff had the office that was probably, you know, if you take this and that room over there in the middle, it was just a long, wide office. He had like 2-3 couches in there, and he had all the TVs set up, and they had a big 60-inch in the wall back there, right? Mind you, Puff was still talking on the telemarketer earpiece. This is back then, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? Very exciting. Now watch this. I'm a kid. Listen, I'm in the cut now. You know, I got my chin down because I'm just cooling. Like I'm happy to be here.
Fly on the
You know
wall.
what I mean? I'm happy to be here because now Puffy Daddy, who we call him Puffy Daddy, he's somebody now.
Yeah.
And the world knows him.
Yeah.
So now Puff is Puff. Now I'm sitting there learning. Watch this. So DJ Mr. C, he come in, you know, real famed DJ from New York. I'm sure y'all heard of him before, whatever, good and bad, you know what I mean? So in any event, the good Mr. C, you know, years back before all the goofy shit was going on with him, years back in the 90s. Mr. C come up to the office. He telling Puff, yo, I got a guy. You got to see this nigga, man. You got to see him. Puff like, well, bring the nigga in then. Nigga, that's what you here for. Nigga, bring him in. You know, Puff is high energy, all that. So, you know, I'm soaking all of this shit up. And then I'm really happy because, you know, my moms and them let me just go off with Puffy. And, you know, we at the office, we hanging out. I'm getting all the vinyl.
Yeah.
Sidebar, I'm a DJ at the time,
So
right in
you're
the house.
excited.
We're pulling out the drawers on the wall. He had these drawers built in the wall.
Yeah.
And it had all the latest Big Papa, all everything in there.
Yeah.
I'm leaving with everything.
Yeah,
Bad
absolutely.
Boy jackets, everything. I'm in middle school lit. High school lit. You can't tell me nothing, right? So, boom. Sitting there. So the guy walks in. Puff got like 4 DAT machines and all this behind him. You know, we don't know what DAT tapes are, digital audio tapes. First it was the real, then it was the DAT tape. You know what I mean? Now everything's all digital. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But DAT tapes were about this small, just for the people that don't know. You know what I mean?
definitely
The
educate
era
us.
we come from.
Yeah.
I come from the real era. You know what I mean? Like the real era. REL. No pun intended, but the real era, right? You know, and the DAT tapes were this small. So Puffy had the DAT machines behind them, Yamaha speakers. These are the YR10s. These are industry standards for 30 years. The ones with the white woofers in them.
Yeah.
I've been looking at those since I was 9.
Yeah.
I bought my first set when I was like 15.
Wow.
My first speakers were Kenwoods. You know, I was using house speakers. I didn't know no better. You know, and I went and got my money up and got some Sherwin Vegas, saving some bread, and then I ended up getting the small YS10s that sat on top of my little table. I didn't even have a big board.
Yeah.
But I just love the speakers.
Yeah.
Amazing sound, natural sound speakers. Anyway.
That's what we provide here.
Yeah, one thing about it, Patchworks is, above and beyond, par, way above and beyond par. Must say that. Shout out Kurt, you already know the vibe. So, anyway, kind of being in that space where, I'm listening to this dude rap. Like, he got the shit on, I'm listening to him rap. Like, this nigga going in. Like, he like, yo, my rap sheet longer than some cocoa bread. I mean, longer than Broadway. And I keep it popping like beef patty and some cocoa bread. These are lines I'm remembering to this day. I'm sitting there like, oh, this nigga going in. Because I think I'm a rapper, too. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Of course, I ain't getting ready to jump on the table. I'm humble. I'm cool. And this nigga going in. He looked scruffy. You know what I'm saying? Timberlands was kind of beat up, whatever. Mr. C standing right there. When the nigga was done rapping, Puff got up and said, yo, listen, stay right there. I'm going to go get my partners. I want them to come back. I want you to do the same shit for them that you did for me. So this is where Puff get the shit from, where he just be standing there looking at you. That come from Jay Black and the Wrecking Crew. You heard me, D-Dot and all of them. They was standing there like, the dude, Black Rob is his name. Just so we do know who he is.
Yeah, like, who's this guy?
This is Black Rob. And Black Rob is doing the same thing, beats on. He had me so hyped. I was like, yo, can you play that track again? I wanted to rhyme again after the shit. I wanted to rhyme after it was over with. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, long story short, he did the same thing for them and rhymed for about 4 or 5 minutes. His voice was hoarse, everything. Puff was like, what you doing? Where you living? Where you staying? All like just proactive. Yeah. Proactive. No, you staying in the city tonight. Yo, but see, what we doing with okay, we're gonna talk sidebar. This one, I'm just looking at all of this shit because when he came in, I asked Sean, I was like, yo, you want me to leave? Like, whatever. He goes, no, you need to stay right there and get that and get this right here. I didn't know what it meant then, but I very, very much so know what it means now.
Which is?
About paying attention. You know what I'm saying? Like, pay attention. You can stay in the room, but you need to pay attention. So many people stay in the room and they're not paying attention. If they're on their phone, if they're on their imaginary phone, soak in what's going on. Right. So you can see how Mr. C has a relationship with Puff. Yeah. Mr. C is able to come in and bring an artist to Puff. Right. And he ended up signing him. And it ended up being Black Rob. You know what I mean? So you have to look at that. And then first, Jasmine and, you had I Love You Baby was born on the, on the Bad Boy and the Family album. Very, 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 very classic album. And then we had Whoa come after that. So, it's kind of like part of Black Rob's story. So
that's so interesting. Yeah. That's a great story. Now for you, what was your I know we talked about it off the record, but your first taste at being in the executive role yourself, like after years of being able to just be a fly on the wall in these rooms, in these spaces, after interning, after working with Motown, and at what point do you feel like your career was like, all right, now I'm going in this direction? Was that mindless behavior? Was that?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. Even when, because I was teetering, with my mentor Bernard Alexander and his partner Walter Millsap. Yes. And with me being there, I was able to actually soak up everything from the touring to the way the choreography schedule, rehearsals work.
Were you on the road? You were on the road?
Yes, I was on the road with them too. I went maybe about 8 or 9 dates. You know what I mean? Throughout the time because we were traveling. Went to China with them as well too. Wow. We were on a Scream tour. I stopped on 2 dates on that, and I was able to see exactly that this is really a business, more so than it has to do with the music. Right. Because without the business of music, you wouldn't have any music. Right. You know what I mean? And the music business thrives off people who know how to complete the business of music. So that was my first start in. But I think I really secured, my space when, Insane Wayne did a record called Sideways for Sci-Hi the Prince. I had a guy by the name of Rick Fox. He reached out. Of course, the contacts were on BMI, what have you. He reached out and he said, man, I really love this tune. I didn't know who the guy was. Didn't even know. To this day, he's like one of my closest friends. But here we are 13, 14 years later. But let me just tell you how it happened. A lot of people say, man, how you get into that? How did that end up happening? And I was like, explain to you. They called him. I nurtured a contact and a request, and I turned it into a 10-year plus relationship. How I was able to do that was because he ended up calling and he said, I want this Sci-Hi the Prince track. What do I need to do to get it? Because it's a tune. Everybody in the office is jamming on it. And I'm like, wow, really? I was like, I thought it was hot, but okay. You know what I mean? Right. So, when I talked to Wayne and Sci-Hi about it, and they said, hey, man, can you change the lyrics? The lyrics are dope. We'll keep it as it is. We love the tune, but you know what will make you a gem? If you can get some basketball lyrics on it. You would be golden if you can get any. And it was easy. We booked time at Tree Sounds. I called Sci-Hi. Sci-Hi, listen, I got $100,000 on the table. You feel me? And I got Wayne. I got 50 for Wayne. I got 50 for you. What we doing? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, he went and changed the lyrics. I sent it back in, working with him in transparency. So at the time, I had a really good relationship with Randy McMillan, who was actually running U Music at the time. And we had so many clearances that we had to get done. Basketball for Curtis Blow. We had Snoop Dogg. We had Royce the 5'9" and Eminem. That we had to get done as well too, because we originally tried to do Lose Yourself. Now let me say this: Lose Yourself on the latest soundtrack, you'll never hear it on a video game because the record is caught up in so much controversy. Just period. People don't know it. This is a backstory. So that's why you never see it in another movie. You'll never hear it on a commercial. You never anything, because the copyrights are so intertwined with the instrumentation that was used there. They're still going back and forth. So Eminem can earn off of it as the performer.
Right.
But when it comes down to the real royalties in the back, mechanicals and licensing
things.
And all of that, it's so much things caught up with that.
Yeah.
But let me say this: I ended up using my relationships to get the records cleared.
Wow.
I ended up using my relationship to get the licensing done. That's how I ended up finding out all these different artists was in 360 deals.
Right.
Because I actually had to get that information, because before Big Sean gets his check for $50,000, I got to send it over to U Music. U Music distributes to Def Jam. Def Jam distributes to his PRO. Then he gets the rest, the remainder.
That's
after they all bite from it.
So many layers.
So many layers.
So, okay, so that's the thing I would like to talk to you about. Licensing and just the entire process seems so discouraging, to someone who doesn't know anything, right?
Right.
How do you go about getting? You spoke about your relationships being an important part of just clearing things.
Sure.
And Peaches was on the podcast prior to, and she was talking a little bit about how she's gotten into the space of licensing as well.
Sure.
And a lot of that conversation starts with who you know and who your friends are.
Sure.
So is a part of securing these licenses, is that negotiating with people that what does that look like?
Okay, all right, so basically you have to understand that when you go to do licensing, different people own the master. So you're talking to various people, or you might be talking to one umbrella.
Right.
The person that's in charge of that may be a friend of yours you've done some business with before. Not a friend, but business friend.
Right.
When you give them, there's a sense of urgency when you call. So instead of the video game company, when they call, it's like, yeah, we'll get back around to you. But when Verse calls, and I say, hey, man, I need this joint done, Lady Gaga or Ace Hood, whatever it was, and I need to get it cleared, whatever. He looks into it, calls me back 20 minutes later and says, hey, you got it, because it's a sense of urgency.
I got you.
That's kind of that balance. But the licensing is really cool because that comes in with you owning your copyright as well, too. So when people do co-publishing deals and things of that nature, I typically, even being with Sony ATV now, I typically, don't do the deals that take up more than 50% of your copyright. So many different other publishers do.
Right.
So how it relates to this is that when I take 50% or 75% of your copyright and somebody goes to license something, then they're getting a larger share than you, at that particular point, because licensing has everything to do with your copyright and your brand name, right? So, when 2K Games licenses a song or a tune, as I like to call it, I like to call them records, but when they license a tune, they're licensing it for a period of time. Because if you're going to say, I like to license it infinitely, guess what? You have to buy the master.
Right.
So the video game companies don't pay royalties, because what happens is this. So 2K Games makes about $300 million off of every 2K release. They don't care about putting $5 million into the software, $6 million into the soundtrack, what have you. So what we were very instrumental to kind of work the licensing situation a lot better. When I ended up being a consultant head on with them, we were going through what they like to call generally the back office. Because if you manage an artist, and I know you, right, and just say Curtis is your artist, whatever, right, so I'm talking to you, right, now typically, not the record company, but the video game company will go through the front door. That means they'll call the marketing department, et cetera, way to get passed around 90 different emails, then hopefully you'll get a call back before the game's release. Right. But if I call you, there's a sense of urgency, like, yo, man, listen, you can get Kurt on this joint right here. It's done the third year, they're paying $100,000. Then he's going to make the call and say, hey, he's going to call his lawyer and say, hey, I'm getting this done now. Hey, I'm doing this. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because there's a sense of urgency put behind it. So that's why we work out the back office. What we ended up doing was creating a division called 2K Beats, where you can actually listen to the music while you're actually cleaning the house, or you're just hanging out, at the house. It becomes another sound system for you. So we started going a little bit further with the licensing and doing 55 original tracks and then maybe about 65 synced. So these are all sync licenses that we're doing. When we actually do license a record, it's usually original copy. So we had a record like we did for 2K18, Wiz Khalifa. We did Mike Will on there. We were originally going for 5 records on it. We only ended up getting 3 done, right? And original music by Wiz Khalifa, was on there. And that basically means that once we license it, Wiz and Mike Will can't touch it for 6 to 8 months. And that's like the contract states, so they can promote the game, and it has this exclusivity, and they're playing, hey, I got this Wiz Khalifa record on this new Madden, or this new, not Madden, but 2K, sorry, Take Two, but 2K games, you know what I mean? Because, of course, Madden and 2K are two different
entities, yeah.
Sure.
Interesting. That's a lot. How did you, so this is, when you say we, you're talking about Sony ATV?
Right.
Okay, but prior to that, you were doing this licensing and things before.
Yeah, I was doing it as a consultant. I was doing it as a consultant, right?
Okay.
So when I say we, it's usually more so the people I'm getting the licensing for.
Got it.
So back again to Rick Fox. Rick Fox owns a company called Fox Sound Studios, hence the name. But he is the main contributor, the main producer, coordinator. His company does all the music for Mafia, Just Dance, NBA, all the series.
Wow.
So he's my friend. So he calls me, he says, hey, man, I need to get this Ace Hood record cleared, man. Is there anything that you can help me out with? I was like, yeah, what's the record? Because I can't get in contact with anybody. I was like, all right, cool. Whatever. So what I do, I make my calls. I made my calls, I got it clear. He sent me a check for $5,000. Hey, man, it's called the Nick the Knife check. So we call it in the video game business, Nick the Knife.
What does that mean?
That basically means that there's a big loaf of bread, right? The loaf of bread has already been spent, but now we're coming back around for the extras. Hey, man, I need Lady Gaga cleared. I need somebody called Akon or someone like that to get Red Zone to clear it or whatever. These are Nick the Knife, the extras. So you might not be able to get a slice, but you can get a nick. You can get a little nick, little 5 bandos, 3,500 or something. That's just a good look. Yeah. Still fill out a 1099 for it, though. They still going to tax you for it, but it's all good. No worries.
That's tight.
Yeah.
That's a really great space to be in.
Sure.
But it's interesting that you say like you don't get the royalties from a game that.
The game is going to sell just like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Game's going to sell crazy. What happens is this: there is no accounting, there's no sound scan for video games.
Right.
So it's not like, the guys are lined outside the store, everything's digital, they're downloading video games like for $99.99.
Right.
Like we're downloading for $9.99 on music. So everything is, of course, in the digital space now.
Right.
So there is no way to track accounting of each individual, how many times they played the game, how many times the record, it's like, it's too much. So we've been trying to come up with some sort of system. When I say we, I'm just talking about the companies and the consultants and the managers and talking back and forth to Take Two about how you can pay royalties. Because they'll pay Drake, $1.5 million or $2 million just to have his likeness on the cover.
Right.
And then he's turning down checks now for $2 million. I tried to get him for 2K19. I ended up taking 40 because Drake was like, man, I'm good. I did that already years ago. When you can get to a space like that, when you can turn down a ticket and change, it's like, man, you've made it. You've arrived.
Facts.
You've arrived. You know what I mean?
Really
so,
you
can actually be that guy, So, yeah definitely 1,000%.
That's tight. Okay, so I want to talk about, your work with mindless behavior. We know that that's like a huge, my niece still dances to their music.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So how did you end up linking with mindless behavior, and where you were managing them?
Co-manager, of course, with Bernard and Walter. And I think, originally, when I had come on, the album was half done already, and then it was just like a passion project for Bernard and Walter,
Gotcha.
Because of course, there's relations there, family-wise,
right.
and, the 3 members, they're all family.
Right.
And it kind of allowed me to go into a space where the people that we were meeting, behind mindless behavior, like Libby Anschultz, Philip Anschultz, like this is how I ended up getting into it, because originally I was just supposed to be sitting in on meetings. And then I ended up being in a space where I was operable, So we're going over to, Philip Anschultz's house. He's like the owner of the Staples Center. He owns AEG, the biggest touring company next to Live Nation. And these kids got us there. They didn't get it because, hey, man, I like the way you guys are. No, the kids. Kids it's a conversation. So we go to the top floor of the Ritz-Carlton. He got the whole floor. He's like, man, I love these kids. That's all he kept talking about. I was like, well, okay. What else? Whatever, that's all it was about. But it makes for conversation piece, from there. And then, not for nothing, that ended up transcending to a relationship with Carmen, which was the pop group Carmen, the duo. And once again, coming into that, I was, back and forth for Jimmy Iovine, L.A. Reid. We ended up signing. I could tell you a small story about that. Being into the space with Carmen, they are this is where covers became popular. So I remember like it was yesterday. I was walking in Short Hills Mall in Jersey, and Bernard called me and said, listen, I'm going to send you something. At the time, we had to slide up Blackberries, right? So, YouTube was kind of funny on that, right? So they would say, so he sent me a video, and I saw this white couple, and they were doing Look at Me Now. And I said, okay, this white girl rhyming. Like, she going in like Buster.
Yeah.
Like, what is this right here? You know what I mean? It's like, yo, it's our new thing. Call me when you land, because I was going back to L.A. Called him when I land. I met him, and he told me, listen, we got something with this. They're going to allow me to shop the deal. We didn't manage them or anything like that. But their co-manager, Joey, at the time, and Bernard were really good friends. So we ended up, they didn't have any ties to the music business. So Bernard had all the contacts. So that was us shopping. Once again, the relationships, consultations. We're going to take them around and see who we can get the best deal from. And at the time, 360 deals were becoming, semi-popular, right? So we ended up going to Jimmy Iovine's house. I wish I it's epic, because I show you the email where everything started. It was amazing, right? Like my first time going to Jimmy's crib, And, I had heard the stories before, but when I went over there, it was like
it's different when
Jimmy,
you see it.
Jimmy got different drip. Like I said, this money different. Jimmy got these big brown niggas with bulletproof vests walking around the property and all that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why he ain't scared of Shook. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like my first time actually going to his crib. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. And that's when I learned that he likes to conduct majority of his business at his house.
Yeah, understandably.
So going over the house, the kids weren't there. Carmen wasn't there for the first meeting. The second meeting they were. So he asked me, what do you want? What do you guys want? I'm offering $1 million, but I want a 360. So it was a sidebar. He's like, man, these guys are going to be amazing. Merch, this, that. Can you imagine what we can do with them? They don't sell records. We'll make a ton of money off of, everything else, and they can help change the culture, Okay. Went to see L.A. Reid in New York. L.A. Reid, put it like this, long story short, L.A. Reid ended up closing them at 920, no 360. Right? So hence that. We didn't stay along for the career or anything like that. Got the deal done. They were self-sufficient. Epic took it and ran with it. They changed their name like recently, I think about a year ago, to Queen of the Dead or something like that. But anyway, they were very, very popular. But that is a model for a lot of artists to go after, to look after how they do covers.
Right.
Because they made covers popular.
Right.
They had Bruno Mars' Grenades. They had 10 million views on that.
Yeah.
When YouTube wasn't even a thing to talk about numbers.
Right.
So it was just different.
And then now you have like artists like Chloe and Haley getting picked up from Beyonce.
Just that.
Covers alone.
Just the covers.
Yeah.
The covers, like now, you want to see it because the covers allow you to exercise your range.
Right.
You might not be Beyonce, but you might have a range like her.
Right.
You might not be Justin Bieber, but hey, he has a look.
Yeah.
So I can get the executive in the mind state of what he can do with him.
Yeah, it's already proof of concept. Yeah. That's tight. Now, we've talked a lot about the 360 deal, so I'm just curious, in your opinion, like, how do you feel about a 360 deal? Because, I mean, initially people were like, it was a negative connotation behind it, but then you can think of some of the reasons why artists will say yes to a 360 deal.
All right, so watch this. As an executive, I like the 360 deal.
Of course.
As an artist, you would hate the 360 deal, the way it would look on the top layer.
Why?
Till someone actually explains it to you. So what happens is that it's like if I come out on my block and I turn around and I say, hey, I got my nickel rocks. You know what I'm saying? Now I want to hustle on this block right here. I'm used to be getting my money all me. Just me and my partners out here. But guess what though? Somebody else done bought the block. There's some new things going on, and y'all not making enough money because guess what? The sales have slowed. So when you go back to the connect, like, yo, man, I don't need a whole half. I just need a quarter. He looking at you like, what? Well, guess what though? When you hustling at school and you hustling on campus, you hustling on the corner, I need a piece of all that because I'm not making any money on 34th Street anymore. So what happens is the same thing in the music business. If I go and I say, hey, artists were coming out selling 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 at a minimum at a time. That was barely acceptable because Eminem was doing $1 million the first week. Yeah. So unless you was doing 700 to 1.1 the first week, you weren't putting up numbers. Now somebody sells 150,000 the first week, you on your knees thanking God. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the difference. Now inside of that, it'll show you, if I can't make the money, all right, so say it's a standard deal, say you make 9 cents a record, LP, 11 records. I'm going to share some with you, whether people know it or not. You only get paid for 11 records. On an LP, it's standard. It's old school contract. It's going to stay the same way, right? People put 19, 20, 21 tracks on the record. For what? So people started getting smart and learning the business. So I'm only getting paid 9 cents a record times 11 records, might get 98 cents. Then turn around and say, hey, if I sell 1 million copies, then that's my money after everything's said and done.
Right.
But you're not thinking about how that 9 cents gets broken down. from the sales aspect of it, not mechanicals, not performance, just the front end. So think about it. The record company didn't want a piece of, they wanted your sales, but they didn't want a piece of your shows back then. They didn't care if you were selling $100,000 in AC/DC merch or whatever. They didn't care. They didn't want a piece of that because they were making $1 gazillion off your record sales.
Right.
Now when they started looking, the bottom line was declining. And so, okay, we scrambling. We going into a digital space. Records not selling. Sam Goody's closing down. FYE's no more. Virgin Megastore has one left. What are we going to do? Well, I say we start taxing them on everything. Everything they do. They're making $1 trillion a year on shows. They don't care about us. The records sell. Look at the Roots. The Roots are a perfect example. Shout out to Rick, man. Actually, Black Thought. He stay in South Orange. You know what I'm saying? Like in Jersey. So, you know what I mean? But he's not from there, from Philly, but just letting you know how people gravitate across that water. The Roots stayed on tour 286 days out of the year. So they didn't care about Illadelph Half-Life only selling 300,000 copies or barely going gold. Because guess what? If I have 286 dates booked at a minimum of $25,000, I'm a group with a drummer. I make a pretty good living off of that. Same thing with Currency. Currency has a secular fan base. So when you start talking about people who don't want to go into the 360 and want to start going to, their independent deals, they showed you the way of how to do it. Now, being in that 360 deal, yes, I want to eat off the publishing. I want to eat off the mechanicals, the royalties as a whole, but also the shows, right? Because I'm used to making $9 million off your album, so to speak. Now I'm making 1.7. Where else can I get my money from? You want the record company to stay open? You want us to keep putting out, you know what I mean? So but the artist is not going to feel that because they're not speaking from the business of music.
Yeah.
When you're taking out all my pockets, okay, what's 20% of nothing?
Right. Nothing.
Just that simple.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wanted to ask you, just being in these particular spaces since a kid, and being around the Jimmy Iovians and so on and so forth that we talked about.
Sure.
I'm curious as to why you feel like you are a part of the conversation. Like, why do you feel like you're the man to consult or the man to reach out to get the licensing done?
Well, not even just licensing.
Let's just say, beyond that.
Let's say across the board.
Exactly.
I feel like myself, it's like this. My middle name is Transparency. I feel like I'm the guy to go to, like now they're letting me know. I'm not putting it out there. They're letting me know you're the guy to see you hot. Okay, whatever that means. I'm working, right? So constantly, right? So I feel that you can't outwork me. So I'm the man to see. So when I have 5 or 6 top selling producers and they all running to me, they can go anybody they want to go to. But it came to me. Not to say, hey, man, I think you're the best in the world. Nah, man, you real. Transparency. When I tell them a piece of my story, nobody comes from my story, Cornell, but then went to federal prison. I ain't put that in the thing, so you have to dig that up. It's a whole nother drip. No, it's a whole nother drip.
You're hard to find on the internet with diverse Tyler.
I know it is. Definitely, as it should
be.
You know what I'm saying?
Such a common name there.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is when I say that, I'm just speaking from the space of having experience in both sides of the coin.
Right.
When you have most of the people who know how to hustle and come from the curb and understand the dynamics of the hustle, you can survive a lot longer. So I feel like, when they come to me, it's like they're going to get the information, the understanding, and I'm not going to throw rocks and hide my hand. I'm going to give you all the information, and then it's up to you to kind of operate that.
Right.
So watch this. They say, man, how you do this? Okay, I can give you my instruction, a step-by-step booklet for you to get, like Biggie say, right? 1, 2, 3. But watch this. Just because I explain to you 1, 2, 3 and I give you the booklet, that doesn't necessarily mean you can do 1, 2, 3 unless you do it in the right format. Everybody's going to have their own format, but you have to make and go with what works for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What sort of advice would you give to aspiring artists, being that things have changed, shifted in terms of like record sales, how we make money, and then now living in the post-COVID, touring is like not even, we don't know what that is going to necessarily look like.
Sure.
So what do you recommend to an artist right now that may be listening, like, what do they do moving forward, or how would you recommend them to move forward?
Well, in this space right here, you have to realize this, content is king. So content has been king, before COVID. Content has been king before we started having to stay in the house. I had a really great conversation with one of my other mentors with Lior, and I got that relationship from my mentor Bernard as well. Lior said, listen, we're going to make them pay with the eyes. He said, listen, now I became global chairman, and I also heard him share the same sentiments, I think, on Breakfast Club. And he was like, listen, these people are logging on for free in Africa. Apple Music's charging $9.99. and all the videos aren't even up there. YouTube is free, so after they show you a commercial, they're paying with their eyes. So guess what? If you see 3 seconds of Patchwork up there, Patchwork is in your head. You see 5 seconds of State Farm before you go to Rick Ross, it's in your head. You know what I mean? Like, you have that. That's what you're paying for. We're paying nothing, but that's what the content and the advertisers are paying for. So anyway, my advice for artists, they have so many different digital platforms for visuals now. Fanmeo.com is one, tapping in to actually do a live performance, in front of your audience. And I would say to monetize. Right now is the time to monetize where you're pushing content consistently. You can't go on tour. So that $100,000 a show and all of that, you're not getting that anymore.
Right.
Not right now. So now you're actually seeing who actually is coming outside, who's actually sitting on their hands, right? So I would always recommend, as an artist, you're at home. You got a studio at your house. Keep pumping content. Come up with new creative ways to draw your fans in. You got 4.7 million followers on the gram. Trust me, you can find out something to utilize them with. 1,000%. Not just ads, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we didn't really get into, all of the things that you've been able to do, like co-writing, co-produce, sound bombing projects for Rockets Records. Just like some of your accolades that we didn't touch on. Okay. You mentioned the Training Day soundtrack briefly, early on, which is...
Oh, it was amazing.
That's a classic.
Yeah. So
how was that working?
Well, that connection came from Diamond D.
Right.
He produced. Mainly the soundtrack was produced by Knots Raw. Shout out to Knots. And it was a crazy experience we had at Chun King, doing the soundtrack because at the time they were coming and just kind of come hard. Everything had MOP on the soundtrack. MOP had never been on a major soundtrack before, and there's some gangster shit going on Training Day, so they need that.
Right. Funny
part about it, we had been in the studio. Lox did a record as well too, but when MOP came to the studio, he did a record with Crumb Snatcher. And he was a rapper. He's been around for a long time. Anyway, long story short, MOP, that's all right. MOP, has a thing about this. They don't like for you to write your records and all of that before they get there. They want to write it we want to write together. Don't lay your verse, you know what I mean? Because Crumb Snatcher in the booth already.
Right.
Billy Danz and Fame came in. And they was like, yo, who was that? Nas, what up? Yo, who that in there? Oh, that's the kid Crumb Snatcher. Why he in the booth though? Nah, tell him come up out of there. We ain't ready to go yet. Give me a piece of paper and a pen. He took a raggedy looking piece of paper and a raggedy big pen, went over in the corner 25 minutes and went out and went crazy. But that's his thing. About MOP don't really do that. You know what I'm saying? So, I think the experience comes from the different pointers. And if I wouldn't have never had those experiences, I probably wouldn't be able to, manage Mooktoven or Priority Beats and these different individuals who come across me because when they come across me, they get genuineness. I'm not with the industry fluff. You know what I mean? I have relationships. I'm in the business of music. I'm not in the music business. So that's probably why a lot of people say, yo, I think I know Verse or I know Cloth. Yeah, you know me now. But, playing the shadows and all of that, it's about the people who turn in the gears. We making music that you party to. I don't want to be in the front partying to the music.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it'll cloud my judgment on what's hot. There's a difference between a song and a record.
Yeah.
A song you'll never hear. See, you don't know Crumb Snatcher because he never made a record. If he made a record, you'd have heard it and you'll know who he is.
Right.
It's the difference.
Facts. We didn't really even talk about how you got to Atlanta, but I'm curious to know, why you stayed at this point because you've been here for over 15 years.
Sure.
Why did you gravitate towards Atlanta at the time, and then why have you stayed?
Okay, well, probably 2001. Believe it or not, I was born in Atlanta.
Oh, really?
A lot of people don't know that I was raised up top in Jersey, and
nice.
And a lot of my family they live here.
Oh,
so
nice.
I was spending summers down here, coming back and forth.
Yeah.
But that's not the real reason why I moved here. I seen the culture was shifting. 2000, 2001, it was shifting. I saw the Soulja Boy coming. I saw the MySpaces coming. In that space, and I thought it would be really, really, really ultimate to get in front of it. I ended up. Moving to California in 2007. Stayed out there about 4 years. I was doing heavy consultation with Warner. I bought Jill Scott over there. Made a music group deal over there and just kind of connecting the dots, right? Really loved it. But Atlanta as a whole, especially when I went away to the place, I came back to Atlanta as well. And I thought it was really good for me to stay here. Even when I was living on both coasts, it was like Atlanta was the nucleus. And you're seeing every other every other block is a studio. Every other block there's a rapper. Okay, out of 90 different pieces that come out of here, 2 gonna make it,
right.
5 gonna make it. But then those are the ones that you need to pay attention to. So that's when you saw Future come out, not nowhere, but you saw him developing and saying, oh, well, that's the drip. That's the song. Okay, now, guess what? Now they on Young Thug. Now they on this. They're showing you, because this time, 9 years ago, you couldn't have had a little Keed.
Right.
You couldn't have had a little Got It. It was all about a transition, and Atlanta birthed that.
Right.
So I think it was about me getting ahead of the curve.
Forward thinking.
Sure.
Yeah, forward thinking. I think we're kind of running out of time, but there's so many other things that I haven't gotten to.
It's all good. We'll do a part two.
Yeah,
we'll do a part two. We'll put it on the board. Listen, I mean, guys, we got so much that we didn't get into. Of course, it's fine, but kind of giving them that information, what they're knowing. Like, we just didn't fall off the porch and get nominated for Grammys. We didn't fall off the porch and get top 3 records or top 10 records, like whatever. Like, when I look up, publicists call me and say, yo, y'all got 3 on the top 10. Guess why I ain't know? Because I wasn't paying attention. I was still grinding.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like saying it's the same hustle and tenacity when I was in school, same hustle and tenacity when I was running the street. You know what I mean? I ain't paying attention to who got what and who doing what because I got my head down. Mm-hmm. I got tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm on. I'm on that. And then when you look up, you find out you're in the lead. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different because people are like, man, wow. Like I have a lot of friends, in the business and, and they look at you and they be like, they call me for different things, clearances, different things like that, because I'm in the business of music. Mm-hmm. I call Alan Grumblad. You need something clear E1? Call Alan up real quick. Mm-hmm. Call Sharon at Republic. I need something done over there. Durrell's running Republic. Like, all my friends and relationships are amazing. Ray Daniel, he's at Warner. Like, like you just make the call, and these people who deal with you, they have the respect for you to turnkey because guess what? They know you won't embarrass them. And I do the same thing for my others because I know they won't embarrass me. If you're going to get on goofy time, you can't come.
Thanks.
I want you to eat, just not at my table.
Listen,
you understand me?
I do understand.
We got a lot of drip. We got a lot of things to go over. I'm mad we can't have another 20. Put another one on the board. Man. I got to go ahead. But I come back, we got to touch back. For real.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we got to talk about a whole bunch of stuff like it's a bunch of talent and the feds come home. They're like, oh, I've been home 3 years.
Really?
I've been home 3 years. I came home January 2016. Straight up. They can look me up, certified 1,000%. You know what I mean? And I'm in the business of music and I'm running this shit right now because I got both sides of the coin.
How long were you away?
I spent 5 years away.
Wow.
I did a nickel. I had private jets and all that, flying the weed around. It was all good, but statute of limitations is up right now, so I'm working on my book right now. It's called The Jet Life, Music, Money, and Marijuana. It's going to be amazing. My auto bio is going to be crazy.
How do you feel about, everybody else profiting off of what you were charged for? I mean, I don't know your charges, obviously.
No, I got conspiracy to distribute marijuana. Me and Biggs Burke had the same case. Not the same case, but the same charge. You know what I'm saying? However, Biggs Burke, founder of Rockefeller, good dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? He had the same thing. 100 kilograms marijuana or more and money laundering. I got 5 years for the money laundering, 5 years for the marijuana, but they ran it what they call concurrently, right? Not consecutively. Running Bowleg, I'd have been in that bitch 10 years. You know what I mean? When they ran it a nickel. And I feel, realistically, you have to realize something. Coming from the space where we come from and being able to endure the university, as we call the university, you know what I'm saying? And be able to endure the university, real talk, is like, and to come out of there with a degree. Because you don't get a degree when you're told. You don't get a degree when you was in there getting beat up and robbed. You don't get the degree. You got kicked out. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. We graduated. You know what I mean? And it's a different feel. So when you come home and I'm sitting in front of these quote unquote white executives, they love me. And I love them. It's all good. You know why? Because we relate with each other. They relate with the Cornell. I relate with the corner office. I relate with the corner. And I relate with the corner offices, both sides of the coin. And we're not being fake. We're being authentic. But I can't get no business done going and say, oh, you know what I'm saying? And hey, shit, we got, what? What are you talking about? I had a no name, no blame. Called the guy up. He's like, call my manager. I said, all right, call your manager. I called your manager. I got the chairman of 2K Games on the phone. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Oh, what's up? Oh, no. Okay, I'm having a bad connection. We'll call you back. And I told my buddy, I said, man, excuse the guy. He must have just been waking up. I'm not embarrassed of my people, but I'm embarrassed I made the call and him not acting as if. Right. You don't have to act white. You don't have to act anything, but act proper like you about to get $1 million check. Right. And that's how it needs to keep going. So if we have $10 million and we turn around and say we're losing money and we're not making any more, it's about the approach, above anything. So it's just so much like, not the average, you know what I mean? So
I'm excited to read the book, honestly.
Book's coming.
Yeah,
book's
I'm
coming.
excited to read
the
the book.
Jet Life is crazy. Yeah,
definitely need a signed copy.
No question. You got that. I'm going to get ebooks, everything.
Love
you know what I mean? That's we on that because it's about it being spicy, educational. You know what I mean? It's about you going into the world and not just some made-up story. This is an auto bio about a person.
Life. Yeah, it's real.
You know what I mean? So it's nonfiction. So I always say true story, not two stories.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You give them 2 stories, then guess what? It's always yours, mine, and the truth. But what about just the true story and just leave it there?
Yeah. Wow. Lots of gems on this one already, and I didn't even get a full hour out of it, but it's okay.
It's all good. You got a direct number, so you're good. Don't trip. But we need to go up,
you,
kind of touch that in. You good?
Yes.
Slide.
So, can you tell them where they can find you so they can hear more about when you're ready to release this book?
Oh, yeah. The book is coming. Jet Life, Music, Money, and Marijuana. Exec, the Luxury Group is my company. We encompass all the hottest producers damn near in the industry on the globe right now. We hot. Right now, but we're going to remain hot. Plan to run the charts for 5 years.
I love to see
get a
it.
good run. But anyway, you can catch me Cloth Talk Verse at Cloth Talk Verse on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and you follow my company too, Luxury Music Media, at Luxury Music Media, the luxury group. So that's a vibe.
Perfect. And as always, you guys can catch this podcast on social media at IDM Podcast, as well as myself on all platforms, Sammy Approved. Thank you, Verse. Appreciate you.
You're welcome very much. So high five, good energy.
Thank you.
You already know.